Style, taste, and home design is always changing, and the more we move forward, the more futuristic and weird homes will look. There are many different home designs that look like they've been ripped straight from a science fiction movie, like homes that seem to float on air or luxury treehouses built in the woods. Join me for today's video as we take a look at 15 futuristic homes that look incredible. Number 15. The Star House. Kicking off this list is a real star. I am, of course, talking about the Star House. This sleek, white, massive villa can be found in Marbella, Spain, and is spread out over nearly 5,500 square feet of space on a massive 32,000 square foot plot of land. It's the epitome of both luxury and futurism and only costs about $3 million. The Star House has got 4 awesome bedrooms and 4 pristine bathrooms, but it's an amazing interpretation of art with the obvious flowing white structures that seem to gently jut out at every turn. And seeing as how the Star House sits on green grass amongst the trees, it's quite literally a standout piece of architecture. And while the home may feel a bit isolated in its location in this gated estate, it's just a short drive to one of Spain's major cities. And seeing as how the Star House is south-facing, it really does live up to its name, with all of the light reflecting off of the bright white building, which also overlooks the Mediterranean Sea. If this is the designer's idea of the future, then things are looking pretty bright. Number 14. The Starburst House. Alright, since we're on the topic of stars, let's check out the Starburst House in the California desert. The Starburst House not only looks futuristic because of its literally exploding star design, but it also takes the future of our environment into account. At this rate, we really don't know what the planet's going to look like 1,000 or even 100 years from now. But if we make a few simple tweaks to our lifestyles, then the future may not all be that bad. So the design team behind this home of the future, Whitaker Studios, decided to put together a home made entirely of old shipping containers, 21 to be exact, and painted them a bright white, which is a stark contrast to the somewhat ominous surrounding. The Starburst House sits on a hefty 90-acre plot of land just outside Joshua Tree and was built for Chris Hanley, the producer of some cult classic films like Buffalo 66 and American Psycho. And with the types of films Hanley is backing, it would make sense that he likes the isolation that this house provides. And because many of the shipping containers point straight up at the sky, he's got some killer views of the final frontier every night. Number 13. Villa Allegra. Regular houses are cool, but when you hear the word villa, your ears immediately perk up. And that's the case with Villa Allegra in Greece. Located in the ever-popular island of Mykonos, the Villa Allegra was designed by an internationally known and awarded architectural firm who placed this futuristic home right on the slope of the hill to keep it protected from strong, dry winds that blow in from the Aegean Sea. But the best part of this home is that it seems to be built right into the earth itself, with just a few sections coming up for air. Much of the Villa Allegra is subterranean, and perhaps when the earth adapts to climate change and becomes a bit harsher, we'll all be living underground. But at least here you can do so within the lap of luxury. The Greek villa has 4 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and sits very nicely on, or rather in, a 43,000 square foot plot, with the interior itself spread out across 4,000 square feet. Needless to say, the property owners have plenty of room to move around out there. And assuming people in the future will still want to go for a dip, there's a classy-looking pool right on the edge of the cliff outdoors. Oh, did I mention the tree that grows indoors too? Awesome. Number 12. The Wave House. The next futuristic home on our list is really making waves. The Wave House is the future of log homes brought to you by Polar Life House, a Finnish wooden house manufacturing company. These days we see lots of homes that opt for a more minimalist look, and the Wave House takes that up to 11 without skimping on aesthetics. The Wave House is made of a good mixture of solid wood, glass, and steel, which gives it a much smoother look and feel, with much of their inspiration coming from the designs of boats and airplanes. The Wave House first hit the scene back in the summer of 2017 and was met not only with thunderous applause, but multiple awards for the interior, exterior, and the house as a whole. This place is pretty sweet, and it also leaves a smaller carbon footprint behind because of the materials used to build it, which is always a plus when looking forward in time. This Wave House has the long term in mind instead of just bringing us something that looks good now, but will only deteriorate over time. Number 11. Prefab Spaceship House. With a name like the Prefab Spaceship House, you know exactly what kind of ride you're in for. This Spain-based home touts itself as a zero-emissions home and was built specifically for a client of the design firm, so don't expect to see this popping up in a neighborhood near you just yet. The Prefab Spaceship house from Nome is made with a sleek polished metal exterior and sits on stilts about 13 feet above the ground to make it look like it just landed on Earth. But if you get a closer look, behind that cold metal exterior are prefabricated wooden modules to help the eco-friendly vibe. The interior uses wall-mounted panels to keep things tight, and there are even consoles that allow you to control the lighting, temperature, and sound system, and even security. Despite having all of the modern amenities, this place really does feel like an intergalactic spacecraft, and even the steps leading up to the entrance are made from a restored airplane stairway. This place is nice, and believe it or not, much of the aesthetic inspiration from this home came from Star Wars. The Force is definitely strong with this one. Number 10. Pound Ridge House. The Pound Ridge House in New York State is quite literally the perfect hideaway. That's because the home's exterior is made entirely of mirrors, reflecting the scenery of the rocky outcrop that it sits on. It's actually really cool, and if you walk by without paying too much attention, you could easily miss it entirely. This incredible modern home was built in 2014 using zinc-coated copper, brushed and polished stainless steel, and sheets of glass to help keep it invisible. And the fun continues when you walk inside. The interior is spread across 2 buildings, with the first being a 1-story structure with a living room, dining room, kitchen, and bathroom. You know, all the basics. But the next structure is 2 stories tall and is home to the living areas and a stellar master bedroom. One of the coolest aspects of this futuristic home is the bridge that connects the 2 sections. Just make sure you don't accidentally walk into any mirrors. Number 9. Tree Nest House. Japan is an awesome country, but they've seemed to run out of space in the last few decades. And while their birth rate has come to a grinding halt and almost reversed itself, people are still living on top of each other, which is why design firms are coming up with great new ideas to keep what little space folks do have as functional as possible. Enter the Tree Nest House, designed by the architect Akihisa Hirata. They took their love of trees to create a futuristic abode that blends both city living with nature. The Tree Nest House is meant to look like a tree, with the base of the structure acting as a trunk and the rest of the building jutting out like branches and leaves across 3,500 square feet of space. Everything here is stacked on top of each other in a 3-dimensional space, giving a literal meaning to the term eye-popping. And while the Tree Nest home is made of concrete, there are plenty of intricate garden areas to be found, and even staircases that seem to hang off the building's edge. Because who says you can't be outside while you're, well, inside? Number 8. The Eco Capsule. Not every futuristic home has to be huge, and downsizing is always a great way to reduce our impact on the planet. That's exactly what the team behind the Eco Capsule had in mind. The Eco Capsule is not just affordable, but portable too, and is essentially a mobile home of the future. You can lug this guy behind your electric vehicle and park it just about anywhere and call it your home away from home for a weekend in the woods. The egg shape isn't just a simple aesthetic choice either. The Eco Capsule is designed to collect rainwater and minimize heat loss, as well as giving you a solid water source. And it comes with a hefty energy system that can generate over a kilowatt of power and store another 10, with the built-in wind turbine helping to keep things like the really smart home sensors and tablet ready at all times. The only real catch with the Eco Capsule is it can fit just about 1 or 2 people comfortably. But then again, if you're a big solo adventurer, then this is the mobile home for you. Number 7. Dolomiteblick. Plasma Studios' Dolomiteblick is an awesome-looking structure that holds 6 vacation homes with a killer view of Italy's Dolomite Mountains. Think of it as one of the most eccentric-looking yet exclusive hotels. It's hard to look away from this awesome futuristic building. What's interesting too about the Dolomiteblick is that it sits in a residential area but refuses to conform to the rest of the buildings and opts for a look that doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason behind it. As you can see, it's one funky structure. But it's all made out of local materials, like larch wood and copper, both of which are fully exposed to the elements, therefore changing colors depending on the light and weather. It's definitely got that old farmhouse feel with a nice injection of futurism for good measure, and the fact that it's built right into the slope isn't such a bad design choice either. Number 6. Capitol Hill Villa. The next house on our list looks more like a space station than it does an actual home, and it's owned by a man who's been nicknamed the Russian James Bond. So needless to say, the Capitol Hill Villa in Russia's Barvika Forest is a force to be reckoned with. It's a totally private residence designed by Zaha Hadid for business mogul Vladislav Voronin. With the woods as its backdrop, the Capitol Hill villa is made from just 3 materials: concrete, steel, and glass, and offers some pretty awesome views of not just the quiet surroundings, but the sky as well. And it's a tall structure too. It doesn't just sit amongst the trees, but instead sits above them. And even though it looks like it's from outer space, the design is based on a yacht, which does start to make a bit more sense the more you look at it. But when you move inside, you'll find a sleek, almost warped interior that looks like it was designed by the likes of Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. It's an incredibly futuristic home that also happens to be one of the most unique in the world. And like so many others on this list, the Capitol Hill Villa is one of a kind. Number 5. High Desert House. San Diego-based Kendrick Bangs Kellogg is one of the best in the world, and in 1986 he was commissioned to build the High Desert House. This is a different kind of futuristic space from what we've seen so far. While many other homes look ready for space, the High Desert House on the outskirts of Joshua Tree look more ready for the likes of the planet Arrakis. Plenty of time and effort went into the making of this home, and once the structure itself was completed, another designer spent the next 14 years meticulously crafting all of the furniture by hand, which adopts somewhat of a Cold War-era sci-fi feel mixed with the Flintstones of tomorrow. And at the end of the day, much of the house has been able to stand the test of time and reflect more modern architecture. The entire project took nearly 30 years to complete, with the home being 5,000 square feet and sitting on a 10-acre plot of desert, nice and snug between the massive boulders. Number 4. Himmelhaus. The Austrian architectural design firm Coop Himmelblau has made quite the name for themselves within their world, rarely making private residences. So when they designed the Himmelhaus in Venice, California, it was a pretty big deal. Initially built as a duplex, the Himmelhaus was quickly converted to a single-family home made entirely of concrete, steel, and glass, which gives the home a great juxtaposition between the angular design and smooth interiors. And while the Himmelhaus functions as a home, it looks like a piece of fine art or ready to be on display at the museum. It's like living in a sculpture. But the best part of the amazing Himmelhaus has got to be the kitchen, which was designed to emulate NASA's engineering. Now, if that's not futuristic enough, then I don't know what is. Oh, and don't forget about the 360-degree views that overlook the Hollywood sign. Number 3. Stairway House. Alright, moving back to Japan, specifically the neon-drenched prefecture of Shinjuku, is the Stairway House. The neighborhood it lives in already looks like it's from the future, taking on a Blade Runner-esque style appearance, so it would make perfect sense to build this one here. The Stairway House is designed by the architectural firm Nendo and is a 3-story home with an awesome cultural aspect behind it. Because it's so common for multiple generations of families to live under one roof, each story of the Stairway House is made to house the entire family. Obasan and Oji-san, or Grandma and Grandpa, can live on the ground floor, with your parents in the middle and the kids monkeying around on the top floor. But the wildest part about the Stairway House has got to be the stairs. Really living up to its name, this cool house has a fake staircase leading from outside right into the home. And while you can't actually use them, this artsy staircase certainly makes for one interesting conversation piece. It's also not hard to notice all of the glass fixtures in here, which all employ smart glass technology, allowing the owners to tint the glass or make it opaque with just a click of a button. Number 2. H3 House. The H3 House in Greece is another futuristic abode that took its design inspiration from the world of yachts. Because why live on a yacht when you can just have a house that looks like one? You can see that it's got a pretty wild design, and both looks and feels like the upper section is hovering above the pool. So just because you're not on the water doesn't mean that you're not on the water. The H3 home can be found right in the nation's capital of Athens, tucked away nicely on a 7,500 square foot plot of land, with the building taking up just over 1,000 square feet of space. And seeing as how this is a list of futuristic homes, the H3 home has the long term in mind, and it's totally eco-friendly, employing geothermal energy as its power source. It's definitely the type of place that's going to outlive us all, but being environmentally friendly aside, it just looks plain cool. Number 1. The Shell House. Hopefully, in the future, we'll all be living in homes that embody a more natural aesthetic, and that's exactly what the Shell House accomplishes. Designed by Kotaro Ide to look like a conch shell, construction on the Shell House finished in 2008, and the finished product looks absolutely stunning. This home sits in the middle of the woods of the Nagano Prefecture of Japan and is made up of two gorgeously smooth white elliptical shapes that literally make it look like a spaceship ready for launch. There are very few sharp angles here, giving this abode a gentler, more sleek look. And while there may be somewhat stark contrast between the home itself and its natural surroundings, it's one of the few homes on this earth that's able to both stand out and yet blend into the woods around it. It feels as if it's meant to be there, which is what you'll be saying about yourself once you see the interiors. A mix of concrete and stone, the inside of the shell house is built to withstand not just Japan's humid summers, but the region's cold winters as well. This house is quite literally built to last, opting for materials that won't decay over time due to the weather and will surely outlive us all. Watch our future playlist for more top 15 videos about the future. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best future-related videos.